You know, the one thing that keeps coming up as I speak to people about their coming out stories, and for the loved ones of those that have come out, is that for many people, especially those who came out years ago, even decades ago, the experience was so very different. There was way more fear, way more chance of attack, way more discrimination, way more uncertainty, and often far, far less understanding. And yet today, we're living in a time where the LGBTQ+ community is even more visible than ever before. There are more voices, more representation, more openness, and that is something truly powerful. But with that visibility also comes new conversations. Some people feel that identity is more accepted now. Others feel that it's sometimes misunderstood or even simplified. There are those that wonder if parts of it are at times seen as a trend rather than a deep personal truth. This show isn't about what's right and what's wrong, it's about perspective. It's about experience. It's about authenticity. It's about understanding the journey from where it was to where it is now, because every generation walks a different path. But every story still deserves to be heard. So, welcome to this episode of Coming Out. Let's open this conversation and hear what it really feels like for those that... Sadi, thank you so much for agreeing to be on this show, Coming Out, my little new project. Firstly, I want to talk about your book during this project as well, because you and your book are supporting this show. But also, I kind of want to take you back to a moment where you realised that you needed or wanted to tell people about who you were as a person.
Well, not for a long, long time. I came out very late, and I didn't tell anyone for a long time, and even myself. There's a lot of people go through denial, or what's the other word I use? Just putting it off, or suppressing. I guess suppressing is the other word. So even for myself, I didn't tell myself, I think fourth grade I had a crush on a girl, which was until sixth grade or something. But then in seventh grade on the swim team, I was noticing things, and like, wait, why am I, looking at these guys in their bathing suits? So, but even then, I really suppressed or denied it, or even though I said, I might be gay. But then this is many years ago when it was much harder. But so I kind of was starting to realize I might be, but I'm like, well, even so, I can still fall in love with a woman and all that. So I really just suppressed it and denied it into my 20s, even through high school and college. So there was nothing to tell anyone because I hadn't acted on it until I was like 25. And so then I finally had done something, and but even then I felt so guilty that I didn't do anything until I was 27, so, and then, then after 27, I, started, I don't remember who the first person is I told. Well, I had a really good friend of mine. She was a girl, and I was, very attractive. We were really good friends. And she's the first one I remember telling, because, I know, I was kind of seeing someone for a very short time. I was just starting to really date, and even though I was that, so much older, and I guess they dumped me. So I was a little upset, but I couldn't tell her why I was upset, because she didn't know I was gay. So we were good friends, and she knew I was upset or something. She says, well, do you want to go for a walk? We'll talk about it. Okay. So we're walking, and she's asking me all these questions, and, well, what's wrong? Is it something to do with this or that? And I forget the exact questions she used, and the way I was answering, but after I was pretty clear that I was saying I was gay, but without saying it.
Right.
And then finally I stopped her and I said, we are talking about the same thing, right? And she goes, yeah, you have diabetes, right? Now, she's a nurse, so it was kind of funny. And so to this day, we still use that word diabetes as code for gay. Right. But because we were such close friends, that's the first person I remember telling. Because my parents, I didn't tell till I was almost 30, and that's a whole other story we can get into if you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then one of my friends from high school, I was living in New York City, and he was coming in. I was maybe, how old was I then? I don't know. And we were going to be going to a party where there'd be a lot of gay people, and I realized he didn't know I was gay, and he's going to realize it when we go to this party, so I'm going to have to tell him. So as we're walking on our way to the party, I'm telling him, he goes, "Oh, I am too."
Oh, really?
Yes. So that was interesting. But we had been really good friends for a long, long time. And so, yeah. So those are the two people that I remember coming out to early on, or which was really late in my, like I was 30 or late 20s. But, and again, because it was back then, I think it was harder. So I think in today's world, I might have come out a little bit earlier, or,
Like 11 or something.
maybe. Oh, it's funny though. Some people say they know when they're like 5 years old or 6 years old. Like I said, I didn't. In elementary school, I kind of had a crush on a girl, but junior high is when I started. But some people know really young. I mean, some people I think come out of the womb, woo.
Yeah, peacock feathers and bows. It's funny because I had crushes on girls even into my late teens, but I fell in love with boys.
Okay, I mean, I had like kind of crushes on girls, but a strong attraction to guys. I think
Well, I
that
was
was.
falling in love with all the boys, and
Yeah.
like if they were visiting, like maybe it was like the cousin of the neighbor, and I know he would always come on a school holiday, and I was so in love with him. And when he would leave, my world would fall apart. So like I didn't have a crush. I wasn't thinking, oh my god, so I'll be all over that in like a rash. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily like a sexual thing. It was more of I'm just completely in love with him, just so in love with him. But the girls were more like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, she's so, I didn't have that emotional attachment to the girls, but I still thought, oh my god, she's so beautiful. Oh my god, I'd love to be her boyfriend. But the boys, not all of them, obviously.
Right.
Thank you. I was just completely in love with, and that was from like probably before 10 years old, I think.
Wow.
It's pretty much. Do you think, like you said, that you didn't come out until really late? Was that because like well, not really late, you came later than some? Do you think it was because you didn't know for sure, or was it a fear-based thing? Was it, how am I going to be accepted? Was it an era thing, like, oh my god, I'm going to get beaten to shit if I tell anyone? Like, what were the factors that kind of made you keep it in for as long?
Yeah, I don't. It's funny. And it wasn't religion. I know a lot of people are religious, and that was, I think, with the case of my friend. That's why with him. But yeah, part of it was just a shame to it, or it wasn't, again back then even more so of this is not right, or so I just felt it's. I didn't want to be at that. I just didn't want, because of all those things, and it was looked down upon, and I didn't feel fear of necessarily getting beat up and stuff like that. Although I guess. And like I said, when I was in high school, they didn't have like a gay straight alliance. They didn't have, I don't think I know anyone when I was in high school that was openly gay. And in college, even, this is back in the 1980s, which was still better than the 1960s or 70s to come out. I mean, they at least were a little more accepting. But I don't, it's weird. I think also, I think my parents probably were conservative in a sense. My mother was upstate New York. My dad was from Turkey. So maybe a little bit of that. And I kind of knew it was, not something that you wanted to be, especially at that time. Or,
Yeah.
So.
How did your parents deal with it when you finally I mean, was you kind of out to other family members and friends by the time you'd come out to your parents, or
Just
was it still quite under wraps?
a lot under wrap. I was out to some friends, but not to any relatives or brothers and sisters. And the way that came about, the friend I told you about that I confided in, the girl, my mother always said, "Oh, she's so pretty. Why don't you date her? Like, why, God, you guys should get married. You get along so well." Da, da, da. And my mother just kept. I was visiting Long Island from the city, and she's asking all these questions. I'm like, I got to catch the train back to the city. I can't talk about it now. And she kept pushing and pushing and asking all these questions. Well, no, come on, let's talk about it. Like, what is it? What's going on? Why aren't you dating anyone? What's going, and question after question. And finally she said, is it men or something? Or like, she said something where does it have something to do with men or guys or something? And so I said, yes. And so, she kind of said, she hugged me and said, we love you. I love you no matter what.
Wow.
And then she kind of says, not is it a phase, but something along those lines. But she'd been suspecting for a while, obviously.
They do say mothers always know, right?
Right. Yeah. But, and then my dad was outside. Oh, and he heard her questioning me, asking all these questions. And I hear my dad say, just leave him alone, leave him alone. I think he kind of knew, but now he didn't hear when I actually
Answered,
answered her
right?
question. He was still outside. And then a few weeks later, my sister, oh, and then my mother told my two sisters. She said, "Is it okay if I tell your sisters?" I'm like, "Yeah." So she did. And then I guess my dad, did I get a letter from him? No. I found out that he was upset because he didn't, oh, he had asked my sister, "Is your brother gay?" And my sister was like, "Well, ask him." So then I kind of felt bad that we left him. I mean, he just wasn't inside when I answered her.
Yeah.
So I think I sent him a letter. And I also did that with relatives in Turkey and upstate New York. A letter, just again, this is when I'm in my 30s, almost 40, I think, and just it's because I was going to write the book Rainbow Relatives, and which is
Oh,
about coming
okay.
out to New Hampshire. So I'm like, well, if I'm writing this book, it's obviously I'm going to be out to everybody. So I feel like obligation to let my relatives or friends, anyone that doesn't know, especially the relatives. And it was funny. My mom's like, "Oh, you don't have to like relatives upstate. They're older. They're in, have their own ways. They love you, but you don't need to even get into that and all." But I went ahead and said it anyway, and I got a beautiful voicemail from my aunt who was like 80 at the time or 75, I don't know. Beautiful. "We love you. I loved you from since you were born. I don't care what you are. You're great. Da da da." And then I got a letter from another aunt and uncle. "We just want you to be happy," and we already knew. And
Wow.
but in the letter, I felt I had explained to them, it doesn't mean I'm a pedophile. It doesn't mean, this.
Wow.
It's not his choice. There were animals in the, well, because I didn't know how much they, have heard from other places. Because they,
Quite sad
it's,
that you have to specify that to say that you're gay as
well,
well, really, isn't
because
it?
there are still people that accuse gay people of being sexual predators or
Do they
this or that.
still?
But today, still a little
Yeah.
bit, yeah, yeah. But again, I don't think they ever felt they didn't really. But again, when they were growing up on TV, they saw ads saying it was gay was wrong or it was illegal to do certain things and this and that. So that's how they were. That's what they were seeing. But by the '80s, or most people, but there's still people today that just still think it's a choice or still think it's
Yeah.
or they're very religious, and you're going to be punished for being who you are, so
Yeah. It's fear of what we don't know, what we can't, or fear of being caught out ourselves, right? A lot
yeah.
of homophobia is actually by latent homosexuals. So, it's kind of, and their fear of being discovered as well. I guess it's just all fear based. Was the response that you got from your family and your friendship, was it different to that, which you expected? Was it better than you expected, or?
I think better because even like I said, my mother, I feel, came from a very conservative background and stuff. But what's funny is, everyone's pretty accepting. Like I said, my aunts and uncles, even the Turkish relatives, kind of sent a message back. You know, we love you and this and that. But it's funny. My mother, like I said, maybe many years ago would have had more of a problem with that. But what happened was we had neighbors move in next door at one point, two guys where my parents lived. So she got to know them a little bit. Her pastor, the church she went to, was like openly gay.
Wow.
Um, and then her daughter, my sister's like husband's sister, is gay. So she's
Right.
met all these people, and so now she get. But when you don't know anyone that is, that's like you said, the fear or the not knowing, and misconceptions. So yeah.
Did you have a negative response from anyone that you thought might be really okay with it?
Oh, that's a good question. Not off the top of my head. There was one guy who was kind of homophobic when I was in my early 20s, and I remember. Oh, that's funny. And kind of a macho guy, and we were friends. We would go out and have fun in straight clubs and bars and stuff. And but he was definitely homophobic, so I didn't tell him. And actually, the first experience I had was a friend of his that I met at a party he invited me to. So that was kind of funny. And I think he might have heard something because he did ask me about that. Because he knew that friend was gay, but he, I think, kind of was a little bit after that party a little bit. So, but that's expected from him because he was already. And then we kind of became friends later on again. Like he was all right, but now he's super MAGA, so I've cut him off completely.
Oh, really? Okay.
Sorry, I have to do it.
Wow. So do you think, like, if you're coming out now, like if you were kind of doing the whole thing all over again, do you think it would be easier now? Do you think it has, because it has more visibility, do you think the acceptance has changed, or do you think that maybe social media acceptance has changed, but there are still quite large pockets of individuals that are still very anti, and it could actually almost like being social media is almost like leading sheep to slaughters, almost like it's creating this facade that it's really, really safe and very trendy to be part of the LGBTQIA plus community, but you're still going to get your head kicked in now as much as you would have done in the 80s. How do you think the difference between the two eras are?
Well, I think it's definitely a lot easier now, and like you said, some part of it with social media. Actually, a lot of TV shows and films have a lot more gay and lesbian and bisexual and transgender characters in them, so that helps a lot. Even the book Rainbow Relatives that I wrote, that was part of the point of it, was so it is easier for people to come out to,
Right.
not just kids, so people are seeing, when you're seeing characters and you realize they're just like everyone else, or they have families, they have friends, they do good things, they do whatever. So it is more easier, I think, be accepted. You're always going to have a portion of people who are
Haters.
yeah, that you have to worry about are going to be, and I feel like transgender has it much worse than gay people, as far as that's concerned, about being in a dangerous situation where, people really want to physically harm them sometimes, which doesn't make sense at all. And you can, you can't tell someone's gay just by looking. I mean, always. So when someone's transgender, a lot of times you can, so they're in more danger and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and again, hopefully that's changing also a little bit, but it's, poor Caitlyn Jenner, she can't get her passport because it says he on it or whatever. Never mind, that's a whole other story.
But even though things are progressing kind of social media wise, like in your country as well, as well as other countries in the world, it almost seems to be going backwards again.
You're right. It is. And what's funny is, again, depending on who's in charge of the government, a lot of times depends which way it goes. When I wrote my book years ago, I think 2018 it came out, but I started it in 2014. Mm-hmm. And when I brought it to a literary agent, he was on the fence. And this was 2016. I'm not sure if we need a book like this anymore. And then he said, but I'm going to go with it. It's a good thing. And he did. And it got a publisher and all that. And now, even when the book came out, it was going backwards again. Or before that, they were passing laws to discriminate against, gay people. And they were trying Prop 8 and all that with you can't get married. And so it does go backwards. I think the majority of people, though, are accepting of gay people as they know people. It's the government they're trying to pass these laws that probably 70% of the population doesn't agree with if it's anti-LGBTQ.
Right.
But you have the ones in power that are trying to, and the religion is a big problem too, which in my book too, it's called How to Pray the Gay Bashers Away, that chapter.
Yeah.
Because they think you can just pray the gay away. And there's that whole thing with conversion therapy. The Supreme Court just ruled here that, it's okay. And it shouldn't be. And it was ruled that it wasn't okay. It's harmful.
It's
children, yeah. And now our corrupt Supreme Court has said, no, that's okay. They can do that.
What advice would you give to someone that was really struggling with coming out today? Do you think it is, I want to interject a little bit. I've always kind of said, when someone asked me, I said, I think it's on a need to know basis. I don't think I think your acceptance is from you and how you accept and how you see it and how you love, how you adore and how you praise yourself. I think it's important to have someone that you can confide in, a best mate. I think that's really important. But sometimes I don't think always coming out to everybody is a need to do now thing. It's a process. How do you feel? What advice would you give someone that was thinking, oh my God, I know I'm different. I know, I've been watching, I don't know, what is it? Heartstoppers, and I really know that this is my life now, and I want to tell everybody. And what advice would you give to someone?
That's a good question too, and I agree with you 100%. It's not everyone needs to know. That doesn't need to be the first thing someone knows about you. No. And there are some people that they do feel that way. They just, but it's not the 100% of who you are, the most important thing about you. But you shouldn't be ashamed of it, and you should be open as you want to be. So that's part of it. It's like, but not everyone needs to know. It's not their business. But in some ways, it's best to be honest. If someone asks certain questions, you don't want to lie or anything. So I say, be true to yourself. Be open to it. Don't, if there's someone you want to know, and you know what, the worst that happens, if they have a problem with it, then maybe that person shouldn't be in your life, or they might just need time to adjust to it. So I think that's a good advice. Whoever you do tell, just expect. A lot of times, I think the response is a lot better than people think it's going to be.
Yeah.
Or they already, with parents and this and that. But sometimes it's not. So I would say if you're like a kid who wants to come out to their parents and you're not sure how they'll react, maybe confide in a friend or something, a close friend, that if there is an issue, maybe you have a place to stay with them or something if there's any
Absolutely, yeah.
Whatever. Because
there's lots of people, there's lots of homeless teenagers and young people that have been literally kicked out of the family home because they've decided to come out.
Right.
And I kind of think, I don't know, I had a very interesting coming out. So for me, it was like, I don't know if I would rather have been kicked out and stayed at a friend's than I don't know what situation would have been the nicest situation to be in. But I think, like you said, always make sure there's someone that's got your back through it. So at least you have, and like I said, it doesn't differ. Like I remember doing this LGBTQIA radio show in the States when I was out there raising money for different charities, an HIV charity and a disabled kids charity. And they said to me, Jaden, Cornelious, you're like a gay artist from the UK. I went, well, I'm an artist from the UK. If I had to choose who to spend my life with, it would 100% be a man. Like I don't get emotionally or, I don't fall in love with women. So yeah, absolutely. I'm a homosexual man, but it doesn't really come into my singing. It's just, I'm just an artist and that's it. And they went, well, you obviously support your local gay community. I said, well, I support my local community irrespective of, all its diversity. So whether it's, whatever, like I always give back to my community. And then we got a gay pride. I'm like, I've sung at loads of gay prides and I love it. But to go there on a Saturday probably wouldn't be my bag, but I probably wouldn't go to a carnival or a fair because I don't like crowds of people. So it wouldn't be because it's gay. It's just because I wouldn't want to be hanging around with 300,000 people on a Saturday afternoon. They went, oh my God, you're like a really bad gay. And I just like, well, like I said, when you're leaving with your next penis at 3 a.m. from the nightclub in the morning, I'm still working to pay for someone who can't afford HIV and cancer treatment. So I'm raising money for his second bout of chemo. So, like I might not be the best gay if that's what you think, but I think as a human I'm doing all right. And I was really, really shocked this was in Atlanta, Georgia, to see the discrimination within the LGBTQI community. Mm-hmm. Really shocked. I'm like, oh my God, like a friend of mine had a charity and he used to get hate mail from the community because his charity also helped heterosexuals, but cancer, AIDS, diabetes wasn't discriminative. Anyone could get it, Yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I can't even believe that, we are doing it to ourselves. Why?
Yeah, and there are even gay people that are anti-trans. Like they're not supportive of trans people. Yeah, so
I mean, I find like even. I think coming out is make sure your community, whether it's LGBTQIA, whether it's, gay straight alliance, I just make sure your community is loving and accepting, because you can also, when I was becoming famous, it's not the same thing, but it's kind of the same thing. It's, don't meet your idols because they'll severely disappoint. And I was very lucky with some of my idols. They're amazing. But it's also like, a lot of people imagine they're going to come out and it is going to be like Heartstoppers and all your friends are going to be accepted. You're going to have this wonderful party time and everyone's going to be wonderful. But there's also discrimination within our community as well.
Yeah.
So do you think it's now trendy? Does it come across as being trendy to be gay, and does that take away from what it was in coming out, with the whole Stonewall thing about getting acceptance and equality? Does it make it a little bit kind of, I don't know, do you think the struggles of, you know, the older generations, our generations, are appreciated for the people who can almost come out on TikTok to 200,000 people in a minute now? Or do you think it's not relevant at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, some people do things for attention and stuff like that, but I don't think anyone does simply because it's trendy or it's, because I think it's still, I think no matter what, it's still a little bit hard because you are different than the majority of people, which is not always a bad thing. It's a lot of times it's good to be different.
Yeah.
But, so I don't know. I wish I could get 200,000 people on TikTok to notice any of my stuff. My music, my books, whatever. I still don't know how to do that. But yeah, I never thought of it that way when they can just, well, everything is so open now, so you can't really even hide. Oh, that was the thing. A lot of stuff I posted on Facebook, people could figure it out after a while. So I didn't have to, quote, come out to a lot of people. I just was myself, or posting about even my movie, Welcome on My Pradas. That was a big sign of, so yeah, I finally got more and more open about it than I used to be. And then it becomes, but yeah, I don't know if it's, some people will say, and some people used to say I'm bisexual just to ease the, instead of I'm gay, it made it sound better. And there's a joke in my movie that I wrote, I'm bisexual. I have sex with gay men and straight men. But some people are bisexual. They're attracted equally, to both. But I doubt too many people come out just because it's a trendy thing to do. Or, I mean, it's easier because but it's still, you still have some of that prejudice or hatred or, it's still, it takes a while to feel comfortable, even today, probably. Although some people, like you said, when they're 12 years old, they know they're gay, they're out, that's an amazing thing to be so comfortable with yourself that you don't care that's it. You don't care what other people think, and you shouldn't. Right. But when you're a teenager, of course you do.
Yeah.
And even when you're older, people do, but you really, who cares? You are, that's your business or your,
yeah.
Do
you think, I don't know, like when you came out, when you was in that process, did it change your acceptance of you?
Well, it was definitely a relief, and also it's very exhausting hiding something. Like it's a freedom. You feel a freedom, so it does change you in a way. You feel more free. You're not hiding something. You're not pretending to be something you're not, which can be very, because even a very honest person, there are very many honest people who are gay, and that's like the only thing they're not honest about, So it's, so I think it changes you in that you can be more yourself. Is that what you asked me? How it changed me once?
Yeah. How did you feel about? Because going back to the first part of the conversation, you said you felt almost like that you were still doing something wrong with your first experiences. Once it had been more open.
Yeah.
Did you still feel at times that you would do something wrong, or was it like, no, man, I've got this now. This is.
After a couple, like by the time I was 30, it was okay, and I was never really, really religious. So that wasn't like. I think those people are the ones that's like really struggle with it. But I mean, there were churches where they have openly gay pastors and very welcoming of gay people, and it's so again, it's easier now than it was then, even for religious people.
And you said that people would always you didn't have to necessarily tell people, because people would always kind of read into what they wanted to read into anyway. I knew that I didn't know I was gay until I was in my teens, because I didn't know what it was. I knew I was different, 100%.
Right.
But I was beaten to shit for being gay even before I knew I was gay. So people were still kind of, even if you come out. I mean, there's this really funny guy on TikTok at the moment, and he is as camp as a row of tents. He's like, right there, I said it. He's like, I'll send you a link. He's really funny, and everything is really, really camp humor, and he tickles me all the time. But he's actually straight and has got a kid. But he's, people are like, oh, you're a faggot, or you're this, and he's like, well, darlings, let me tell you something. My partner's got breasts, and I love her. And he's like, he's very flamboyant and hilariously funny, and he's not gay. But people are reading what they want to see, or whether you come out or not, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's, I think sometimes, like you said, having that honesty is, I think, more with yourself than anyone else, is the most, knowing who you are, know thyself, and then nothing really affects you on some levels anyway.
Yeah.
And we were saying as well before, before we were recording, that coming out is not a one-time event stroke anniversary. It's an ongoing. Do you still feel now that even after, you said you came out in your late 20s, so what was that, 10 years ago? Do you still feel that you're still
much more than 10 years ago? But
so you're still coming out on some levels even now, do you think?
yeah, I mean, because I'm much more open now, and with Facebook, you can, there's things on there, and the book and the stuff, but at the same time, like if I'm let's say I'm on a film set, and they're talking about this or that, oh, the girl did it. I don't have to tell them, oh, well, I'm not interested in women. I don't have to, especially if I don't know them that well. I don't say anything. I don't make it, that they have to know. But if I'm not hiding it, or I'm open about,
Right.
or depending on the person, the conversation. But like you said, not everybody it has to be the, but yeah, so I don't feel, definitely it's a relief not to feel like I'm hiding. I remember once I was working a catering job, and behind the buffet with this guy, I think he was from Israel, and he was, I think, mentioning, oh, look at that hot girl over there, look at that hot girl over here. And I was like, it's not really his business, but I finally said, well, she's not my type. I said, none of them are my type or something.
Right.
And he said, well, what do you mean? And I had to say 3 different things, hints. When he finally got it, he says, oh, but I felt comfortable enough with him to say, yeah, that's, because I used to, when you were younger, 20s, I'd be like, oh yeah, she's hot. Or I'd go along with it, like that kind of thing. So it's.
But no, do you ever find, I don't know if it's just me, but I've found myself coming out to people in order for them to feel safe, especially women. So like when I used to teach Zumba, or when I used to, teach salsa and stuff like that, and, you would get a lot of I was young at the time, I was still in my 30s, but, you would get a lot of older guys that were there a bit lechy in order to have that close dancing with a woman, and I was kind of saying, we do need to be close for this. And, so your leg needs to be here, my leg needs to be here, because this, we are at arm's length, and that's not how you would dance like a Latin rhythm. I said, however, don't worry, my boyfriend's not going to be jealous of you because he knows the situation, and they're like, oh, okay. And then they're happy to dance with me. But if I hadn't done that, you could see the kind of, I don't know if I really want you in my space kind of thing, Yeah. So I've still found that even, and that is a way of still coming out, is still having to make people, well, you're actually safe with me because I'm not a threat to you, which in its way is quite sad, but Do you ever find that as...
Oh, sorry, you mentioned about helping people by coming out. It helps others, and that's great. I love that you do that. And there's an organization, I'm sure you know of, PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Gays and Lesbians, that really help, I think, teenagers or kids come out, and families talk about it and stuff. And I actually marched one year in the parade with PFLAG because I interviewed them in my book, and they do so much good work. But what was amazing about that is watching when PFLAG would come down at the Pride Parade, so many people were like applauding and so supportive of them. And it was, so that's a great organization that anyone who's, for coming out.
That's really cool, man. Yeah. What do you hope that the future of the LGBTQ? I get confused. There's so many letters now.
Well, there's too many letters.
It was just LGB when I was younger. Now
I know, and sometimes I think, there's a way to make it all inclusive. The word queer now, queer used to be a very negative connotation. I didn't like.
It was. Well, you were sick if you were queer. It was
right, and so it's still, when I hear that word, doesn't sound quite right to me. But they use it now to just mean different.
I personally don't like it because, and I know it's about repowering certain words. I get that as well, but I like gay because gay always meant happy.
Right. Yeah.
And queer always meant you were sick on probably on a mental level, and I don't, I don't feel an association with that word, but I do with gay. I'm
sorry, you were saying something else, and I forgot.
No, I said, what do you hope for the future of the LGBTQIA plus community in kind of terms of like understanding authenticity?
Well, just that they're, I mean, I don't know if this is really answering it, but just everyone is comfortable being who they are and being, it's not such a stigma or, again, it's still, I think some people can be fired in some states here that if openly gay, it's legal. So hopefully that stuff will, and also there's no more, they're going to keep probably trying to take the rights away of same-sex marriage, but hopefully they won't be able to. And, just let people live their lives and hopefully, like you said, there's even within the LGBT community some prejudice to this and that. So hopefully, stop that, people. Stop it.
Well, it's just to be a human community with all our colours and flavours, rather than having to have communities of different people to be accepted, right? I guess.
Right. I think, because I think you said something before. It's like people, like if you're an actor, like, and you're gay, they say, "Oh, that's a gay actor." No, you're an actor who happens to be gay.
Yeah.
If you're, like you said before, if it's not, doesn't have to be the first thing that someone knows about. It's like religion too. A lot of people feel like that's the first thing they have to. I'm Catholic. I'm Jewish. I'm this and that, and that's very important to you, and that's your part of a big part of who you are. But not necessarily.
It doesn't define who you are as a human.
Yeah. And I mean, in some ways, I get that one. If you're very spiritual in this, and you live your life by certain things because of your religion, but a lot of people are hypocrites and they don't even do that. So
completely. Now, I want to quickly, firstly, I want to thank you for spending time with me today. I really appreciate your time, and it's been lovely to catch up with you and hear about your experiences. But we are not going to leave this show without you telling me a little bit more about your book and where people can get it from, because I think it's a phenomenal tool that people can use just to help their process of, not just the process of coming out, but when someone is coming out to them. So can you just tell us a bit about Rainbow Relatives?
Yeah, Rainbow Relatives, real world stories and advice on how to talk to kids about LGBTQ families and friends. It's kind of a long title. It was going to be called How to Tell the Kids About Uncle Mary and Aunt Butch, but I got rid of that one.
I still think you should write that. I still think you might have the take on it.
And the book came out in 2018, but I just, a couple of months ago, did the audio version, finally, of the book. So there's going to be, in a couple months, the audio book will be available also. But right now, the book is on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and all that. My website is sudierick.com, so there's more information also on the book. I wrote it. It's a funny book. Like, there's some funny things in it, but it's educational. There's some, like I said, the chapters, the titles. Mommy left Daddy for Tommy. No, Daddy left Mommy for Tommy. Pray the Gay Bashers Away. There's a transgender chapter. Kids, your father, well, she has something to tell you. I forget the other chapter name. But it's also, there's serious issues like bullying and school pressure and stuff. So there's things on that also. So it's kind of a good combination of, it's enjoyable to read. Like, you don't want to be too lecturing.
It's not a heavy read,
Yeah. So I got real stories from people, and some are fun. And I also interviewed the country singer Shelley Wright, who came out, and which is hard in Nashville for a country singer, quite a few years ago. Bruce Valanche, just for fun, I did a celebrity thoughts chapter. And Del Shores, who did the movie Sordid Lives, I interviewed him because he was had two daughters. Well, he was married, had two daughters, and then came out. And so I have interviewed him. And so it's a fun, informative book. I had fun writing it, and it's just real stories and fun. But and so even people, adults, kids don't usually have issues. It's the adults with some of these topics.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's funny. So even people who don't have kids, it's not necessarily you have to be a parent, or it's good for parents and teachers, the book, but it's not, and it is for adults. It's not like a children's book.
Right.
It's on speaking to kids. Some people think it's a children's book. It's not. But sometimes the children are a lot smarter than the adults.
Well, they're a lot less blinker. They've not had quite as much opportunity to stay in their own opinions without wanting to be, open to other suggestions of things, right? A bit freer with their thought process. Will there be a Rainbow Relatives 2?
I don't think so. Maybe the musical. No.
You wouldn't be considering me for that.
Yeah, I'll have you in that. No, I don't think so. I mean, I could be I think it would be a good documentary, actually. I don't know. I don't have any plans for that. Like I said, the audiobook took a lot out of me recently. Those are hard to do. I did my own, reading for that one. But that was good. And I also recommend Ty Herndon's book that just came out about him coming out. He's a country singer. It's called What Mattered Most. And
Okay.
that's a really good book, his story. But
Rainbow Relatives available on Amazon, audiobook.
Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. I think, because some people don't want to go to Amazon, they want to go. So I think a lot of different outlets for that, because it was published by Skyhorse Publishing.
Fantastic. Okay, I'll share a link on the page. Mate, thank you so much for being part of this show. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to catching up with your next book, whatever that may be. It'll be.
I will have one next year, probably. Yeah, a couple maybe.
All right, mate. We'll keep in touch for sure. You take care. Thank you for being part of this show.
Always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
See you later, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Sudhi, for joining me today. It's been really wonderful to catch up with you and to hear your experience and your coming out story. Thank you so much, people, for watching episode 2 of Coming Out. Don't forget, if you have a story to share, it will be wonderful to hear from you. Also, you'll find us on the Facebook page. Bit by bit, I'm trying to develop a kind of an album, a directory of people that would really love to speak to you should you feel that you need somebody to speak to about your whole experience. So keep checking on that. Make sure you've added the Coming Out on JCTV Facebook page as well. Thank you so much. Don't forget, Sudhi's book is available at Amazon and other booksellers as well. So make sure you go and check that out. The Amazon link is in the write-up of this episode. And I will see you soon on episode 3 of Coming Out. Take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye.